All right, I'll try to get us out of here on time. Thank you, Elisa and Miranda, for having me here today to talk about the Leukodystrophy Care Network. My name is Anna Grantham. I'm the Director of Newborn Screening in the Leukodystrophy Care Network, or LCN, at the Hunter's Hope Foundation. I do want to just say Elisa is one of our steering committee members for the LCN, and we really consider the ALD Alliance a sister organization, and we're so grateful to partner with you in everything we do, literally everything. We talk to Elisa all the time. If you're not familiar with Hunter's Hope, we were founded in 1997 by Jim and Jill Kelly when their son Hunter was diagnosed with Krabbe leukodystrophy. And if you're like me, you may have no idea who Jim Kelly is. I didn't know who he was until I started working for the foundation. But he's a famous football player, and so at the time when Hunter was diagnosed, they received letters from all over the world, from leukodystrophy families like theirs, who were just sharing about their children and their family story, and the Kellys knew they had to do something to help. So our mission is to promote early detection and treatment for leukodystrophies and to offer emotional, medical, and financial support for families impacted by these diseases. And from the very start, Centers of Excellence for Leukodystrophies was one of our strategic goals. So like I said, Hunter's dad was a famous football player when Hunter was diagnosed with Krabbe. And so you would think they would have all these resources at their fingertips, and they did. But even so, just like so many other leukodystrophy families, the Kellys were told to take Hunter home, to plan his funeral, that he wouldn't live probably beyond the age of 1, definitely not beyond the age of 2. And so they just were desperate for help. They didn't know how to meet Hunter's very complex medical care needs. And so it was just a lot of trial and error. By the time Hunter was 3, he had had pneumonia so many times that they lost count, and been hospitalized so many times for pneumonia they lost count. And then eventually, one of the doctors they saw said, oh, well, he has the wrong G-tube, he's aspirating. Well, they had no idea there were different options. He needs a JG tube. And then another specialist that they came across said, oh, well, he should have respiratory therapy around the clock. And from that point on, he never had pneumonia again. And that's just one of probably thousands of examples I could give where had Hunter had proactive expert care from the very beginning, so much suffering could have been avoided. And we have heard thousands of stories like this from the hundreds of men and women and children with leukodystrophies that we've served over the last 28 years. And so even when there's no disease-altering treatment, life-altering improvements can be made by proactively managing disease symptoms and preventing complications. So the LCN mission is to revolutionize the health and quality of life of individuals living with leukodystrophies. And we shamelessly follow, or try to follow, I should say, the CF model, cystic fibrosis model. When they first began the Cystic Fibrosis Centers of Excellence, the average life expectancy for a child with CF was 6 years old. And now, as we all know, people with CF are living into their 60s and beyond. And this model really centered around systematically improving standards of care for CF patients. And so we know that proactive, multidisciplinary, informed care provides improvements to the length and quality of life for individuals with CF, and we believe that this is also true for individuals living with leukodystrophies. So I'll just share a few of our highlights from the past several years. Like I mentioned, the LCN was an established long-term goal of Hunter's Hope from the very start. If you're familiar with our foundation, you'll know that Hunter's grandma, Jackie, and don't think of normal grandma, okay? She's not. She's like a bulldog. But she started talking about these centers of excellence for leukodystrophies, and all of us were like, what are you talking about? Like, how are we gonna do this? But she really, around 2013, really started researching other disease models and meeting with leaders in the leukodystrophy community. And I think it was probably around 2014, 2015. I know many of you were there. We had a big community meeting with families and the disease experts and other, model disease groups to really begin to form the LCN and to decide, what were the biggest gaps in care, where would our focus be, and just slowly started to create this vision for the LCN. And it's really been built by the full leukodystrophy community from the very beginning. We also, I think it was around 2016, we surveyed more than 300 leukodystrophy families to learn more about the most prevalent gaps in care. And that was our guidepost for where we would start writing standards of care and what we call clinical practice guidelines, or CPGs. So we also launched our steering committee, which I'll talk more about in a moment. And in 2018, we officially certified our first 8 LCN centers. And so far this year, we have 15 certified LCN centers. So we're still young, but I feel really excited about how far we've come already. And the LCN really is a network of key stakeholders in the leukodystrophy community. All LCN activities, meetings, centers agreements, et cetera, are coordinated by Hunter's Hope. And the LCN works hard to help connect the families who live with these diseases every day with the medical providers and industry partners, newborn screening experts, so that we can all work together for our shared goal to improve the length and quality of life for individuals with leukodystrophies. And in our minds, the LCN really belongs to the full leukodystrophy community. So we're very committed to elevating the patient voice and the patient experience. And so this is not our steering committee. It's not this large, but these are all leukodystrophy families. And our LCN steering committee is made up of all leukodystrophy families. We believe that leukodystrophy families deserve to have a seat at the table, especially when we're talking about how to improve the standards of care for leukodystrophies. And many of them are like Elisa. They're not just family members, but they're also connected to another leukodystrophy organization. Okay. So this is our current list of LCN certified centers. Many of them are in the room today. We actually are hoping to certify a couple of more centers mid-year. Our centers must meet the LCN criteria, which you can find on the Hunter's Hope website. And they have to have a core team that's focused on leukodystrophies, which is made up of a leukodystrophy director, an associate director, a nurse care coordinator, and others. And each center provides biannual reports. They also attend our various in-person and virtual meetings throughout the year. So our LCN directors, I think all but one are neurologists, and this group is filled with true leaders in the leukodystrophy community. The directors this year started meeting quarterly. They're sharing everything that they have going on in their centers, which includes, clinical trials, and many of our centers are sites for new treatments. But I really appreciate this group's commitment to collaboration. They'll refer a patient out to another center if they know that that's the best decision for that particular individual. And I just really appreciate their drive to learn more and to really have the best information so they can provide the best possible care. Our LCN care coordinators are truly the heart of the LCN. This role is filled by a nurse practitioner or an RN, and they serve as the point of contact for families, the multidisciplinary care team, and then for families who have to travel long distances to see their LCN center, they also work with the local care team. And this is where, as we were building the LCN, this is where the community determined that this is where the grant funding should go for the LCN centers, because we can cover a portion of the care coordinator's salary, for complex diseases like ALD and leukodystrophies. a 20-minute neurology appointment isn't enough time to coordinate the multidisciplinary care and everything else that's needed. So we try to cover a portion of that time outside of clinic to really help them provide the full gamut of care that these patients need. And our care coordinators, they meet every month, and they are so passionate about providing the best possible care to this community. They talk through insurance issues, case studies, and they really want to understand the most current protocols from newborn screening to everything else. So they're an incredible group of women, and we're so grateful for them. And Katie's one of them. Just so to give you a taste, this is who we have, guys. Like, they're the best.
I like.
Yeah, she doesn't talk. Our industry partners are also a key component of the LCN. I feel like this is such an exciting time for leukodystrophies with so many new potential treatments, clinical trials, and then even new treatments receiving FDA approval. And one of the requirements to become a certified center is that there's an IRB process in place. And many of our LCN centers are clinical trial sites, and then qualified treatment centers once a treatment receives FDA approval. And it's really important to us that we keep the communication between our industry partners and our families and then our centers going, because we want all of our LCN centers to be fully aware of the various clinical trials that are available for leukodystrophy patients. And we also want to help our industry partners understand the real needs of this community and to know how to best serve them. So I mentioned our clinical practice guidelines, or CPGs. We love an acronym at Hunter's Hope. We have several, we started those early on, and we have several that have been published, some focused on clinical care to continually improve the outcomes, our outcomes for individuals with leukodystrophies. We have several focused on newborn screening. We have published protocols and guidelines for leukodystrophy newborn screening, and that's something we're really working hard on. I'll talk more about in a minute. And we have several corresponding guides for families, because we want families to be equipped and empowered to understand the standard of care for their children and to have information for them. So since the LCN began, newborn screening for leukodystrophies has really started to expand, and it's extremely important to us that our centers are equipped to provide expert long-term follow-up and treatment for this growing population in our community. These are complex diseases, and it really helps to be at a center where the doctors know what to do. So many of our directors' meetings have been focused on best practices for babies who screen positive for ALD or Krabbe disease. We also have a monthly Krabbe newborn screening council meeting. I think our last meeting we had about 50 newborn screening experts, state programs. Dr. Orsini knows. People like Dr. Orsini. Yeah, the follow-up physicians, thank you. It's a great meeting that's really focused on case studies, improving protocols, helping a state set up their newborn screening levels, once they start screening for Krabbe. And many of our LCN members are also on that call. And then also a full day of our annual medical symposium is focused just on newborn screening for leukodystrophies. And I feel like we could spend a full week, honestly. There's so much going on and so much to talk about. So we'll continue to help create and publish new guidelines and resources for leukodystrophy newborn screening. It's something we're really passionate about. Speaking of the symposium, I did just want to give a plug. You can, I don't know what the QR code or whatever. I tried to be really fancy. If you haven't been to the symposium before, it's scheduled for the week of July 14th this year. It's really 2 meetings in 1 week. The first part of the week is the medical portion, and it's from medical providers, newborn screening professionals, industry partners, and it's, like I said, focused on newborn screening for leukodystrophies. And then we talk about all of the LCN components we talked about, or I just mentioned. And then the second half of the week is for our families and the siblings. I'm so glad you talked about the siblings. But it's really just to create friendships with other families who are on a similar journey. And honestly, I'm, again, so glad you're talking about the siblings, because they are the, like, best part of the symposium. These kids have made such strong friendships, and it's really beautiful. So if you're interested in coming to the symposium or learning more, just let me know. And finally, I do want to share that, you know, like I said, we're really passionate about understanding the patient experience. And so this year, or I guess the end of last year, we launched our LCN Patient Experience Survey so we could learn more about what we're doing right and where we need to continue to grow and improve. You can find the survey on the Hunter's Hope website on the LCN Centers page, and it's also linked right here. But it's just another way for us to hear from families about, you know, what they need specifically. So that's really what we're all about at the LCN. So thank you again, Elisa, for having me here today. And if I haven't met you, I'd love to meet you. Thanks.